Welcome back to part 2. Just a reminder that I'm joined by Amy's CEO, Stephanie Charman, and in this part we're going to discuss the mortgage market outlook, and I may even ask the straight question, will Help to Buy come back? Stay tuned to find out more. Brilliant. Thanks for coming back, Stephanie.
Thank you.
So in this part, I want to go more into the market. So first of all, your outlooks on this year.
So I am a half glass full person, so I always try to find optimism wherever we can. But I think there are some headwinds. Look, even as time of recording, we've seen horrendous conflict across still across the Middle East, and who knows what's going on across the pond. I think there was some positive headlines yesterday, even though we dropped the piece of paper, I think, if anybody was watching. So there's still again, we've seen some downward trajectory of rates, but I think given current circumstances, we'll see some things bolster. Cost of living starting to ease, but I think but again we're seeing a little bit of easing. We're also seeing in some in some areas hikes as well, and I think Rightmove have continued to see some positive momentum. I think we all hoped this wouldn't be the case, but all feared that we see that stamp duty cliff edge at the end of March. But actually, sales activities continue to remain quite positive, and we've got a strong refinance market. We've got I think it's approximately 1.8 million customers this year coming off of fixed rates, and that bolsters next year, and 26 and 27 continues. I think we get to 2028 where we're looking at a 500 billion product maturity market. Wow, what an opportunity.
Yeah,
however, we're in this sort of little bit of a funny time, aren't we? Because what you're seeing people come off of 5-year fixeds that was sort of done, still sort of 2020, 2021, where actually rates were incredibly low and started with a 1, I expect. And we're also seeing, so those people are seeing payment hikes. And you're also then seeing customers who are, did their mortgage a couple of years ago, who had already gone through the impact of the trust rate increase, and they're starting to see rate decreases. So you're going to have some happier customers and some customers that are still going to sort of navigate through, and we're going to see that for another sort of couple of years. And I think it is significant. I think there's over I think it's something scary, like 1 million customers are going to see a £500 increase a month. It's something like that. It's a big amount of money, isn't it, a month?
Absolutely.
In addition to everything else. So cautiously optimistic, I think, is probably what I would say, but let's try and see the silver linings.
Okay, so I mentioned at the end of part 1 the 100% mortgage. So you recently hit the market. Do you think we'll see other lenders follow suit?
Possibly.
Okay.
Or iterations of,
okay.
I think is probably the best way. And I think we've already seen over the last couple of years some great innovation. I think specialist lenders will be really well placed to support in this space, and it's fantastic that we've seen April with all the right safeguards put in place to relaunch back into this market. And you always need one to start, don't you? We always need one to start that momentum. What we've got coming up in June is a discussion paper from the regulator around the mortgage sector, and how do we encourage innovation, how do we look at affordability, a responsible risk risk decisions, and how do we help first time buyers sort of get onto the property ladder. So I think it'll be interesting to put 100% into all of the mix where that's concerned. So possibly, I think, is probably my answer. So quite on the fence.
Okay, fair enough. And I think we again touched on this, and in terms of lenders, are they doing enough, do you think, to help home ownership?
I think within the parameters that they've got. So I think, and again, I think we do need to be mindful that, we've just seen the LTI sort of changes, the LTI cap consultation. We've seen, some of the, the affordability stress testing starting to ease with some lenders. So where they can, they will, and we've seen that being demonstrated. But they still, they don't just respond to, that need to be, navigated by the FCA. They also, are accountable to the PRA as well. So within the parameters that they've got in place, I think they are, and I think you've seen that with, as I touched into those innovative products from likes of some of those sort of specialist lenders and second tier lenders that we've seen.
Okay, so sticking with lenders, where do you think the biggest challenge for them is at the moment? And the biggest challenge for the intermediary market?
Biggest challenge for the intermediary market, I think. So look, I think tech plays massively into challenges. I think challenges for intermediaries. I mean, how long have you got? I think there's much more challenges.
15 minutes.
Yeah, not enough time. So I think challenges for intermediaries are bigger than I think they are for lenders, if I'm completely honest.
Okay.
So I think there's time pressures, there's the impact on mental health, there's if we're going to start seeing rates rise again, we're working into rate pressures and looking at those refinance opportunities. Increased business costs. We've been in a product transfer dominated market, with rising business costs and lower income, that factors through. So I could go on and on and on, but I would say advisors are really resilient and they're very, very good at adapting and working tirelessly for their customers. So I think there's much more challenges facing intermediaries than lenders, I think, at this moment in time.
Okay, so and you've touched on it already, the tech piece, and I think at the moment every one of these we come on to the topic of AI. What do you think? How do you think it's going to impact the broker?
So we're not being turned into avatars at this point, are we, John?
Well, I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see. So I think AI can be a threat if we pop it in a box and stick our head in the sand and go, we'll pop it over there and hope it doesn't impact us, because it will. And we're already starting to see that. And we're already starting to use AI in our just everyday lives. Some of us are even using it without even realising it. So I think it's I use the term augment. So how do advisors adopt, how does a sector, do we adopt AI and augment our processes? So how do we create efficiencies, productivity, regular engagement with your customers, and use AI and future tech as a tool, with keeping advisors doing what they do best, which is having those customer conversations, giving that advice, giving that guidance. I also think that we do need to face into it, because there's a stat from ACAS which shows 1 in 4 workers feel their role will be replaced by AI. So they're already really, really concerned. They're going to be made redundant. They're going to be replaced. Well, actually, though AI could support with some of the admin work in your businesses, how is that then? We've already touched on it in working in part 1. How do those admin and power planners become our advisors of the future? Yeah. So it doesn't mean that it has to replace it, but we do need to probably adapt and pivot.
Okay, so I want to now move into the world of new build.
Yep.
All right, so we all know, and I think everyone's aware of the government's ambitious plans to build 1.5 million homes. Your thoughts on that initially?
Yeah, so I don't think it matters whether they build 1.5 or 1.3 or 1. I think the fact that they're committed to building more homes, which, let's be honest, we need. We saw Rachel Reeves announcing the spending review last week. Commitments of funds of money towards helping sort of developers, helping social housing, because I think everything is connected. It's an ecosystem, isn't it? So if we don't have enough social housing, then that puts pressure on the private rental sector, which then puts pressure onto helping people with rising rents, impacts first time buyers, etc. So the whole thing is connected. So I think that's really positive. So I think, look, it's a commitment. They'll make a good, they look like they're going to make a good stab at it. Yeah, okay. I think that's probably the They'll make a good stab at it.
Okay, fair enough.
And I think that's, but I think it's positive for customers. What we do need to do is build the right type of houses.
Okay, all right. So I proposed it at the start. Help to Buy, should it come back? Is it likely to come back?
I don't think it's likely to come back.
Okay.
My personal view, not likely to come back. Should it come back? Yes, I think it should. It wasn't the silver bullet, however, and nor would it be the silver bullet that I think we all hope it would be. And I think if we pin all our hopes on Help to Buy will solve our first-time buyer crisis, that won't be the case. I think, look, it helped, about 387,000?
Yeah.
I think it's the figure that powers
into
my head.
Yeah, it's definitely over
something like that.
Yeah.
387,000 people onto the property ladder. But I do think it got a little bit out of hand.
Okay.
So I think, I talk a lot about right sizing, and, you did have first time buyers able to leapfrog rungs on the property ladder into 3-4 bed semi-detached, detached houses, with that Instagram, profile. And I think, that's great. But actually what we need to do is we need to build, and that's the comment I just made, we need to build starter homes to help first time buyers that are affordable onto the property ladder. And then I think Help to Buy as that extra support mechanism would work really, really well. So for the right cohorts of customers, yes, I think Help to Buy could be could be a helpful solution. But there's lots of other schemes out there. Shared ownership, shouldn't be seen as an inferior option. The lifetime ISA, has some restrictions. Should we be lobbying to look at some of those? So I think there's lots of things out there that could be helpful. I think the one thing that Help to Buy had was such a consumer awareness piece.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably one of the things that we're missing now.
Okay, thank you. So as we draw to a close, the last question I'll ask everyone this, and I think I know what your answer is going to be here, Stephanie. The importance of the broker.
Vital and fundamental.
Okay, I'm going to literally finish there.
Okay.
Unless you want to add anything to that.
No, that's it. Yeah, I can say lots more, but I think, vital and fundamental.
Vital and fundamental. Brilliant. Well, that brings to a close this episode. And what an episode it's been. A massive thank you to Stephanie for joining me and sharing such valuable insights. We all know the importance of the mortgage broker, and I'm sure the FCA's thoughts on increasing more execution-only business will spark continued discussions. But surely ensuring continued, fully advised mortgages is the best option for the customer. I guess only time will tell on how this plays out. However, what will remain important is that as an industry we continue to work collaboratively to ensure customers consistently receive the best possible outcomes. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you all next time.